So that, because like here when I'm talking about I'll say something that they'll remember forever. Okay, so you should as you go. I didn't set the room, so I could ask you to stay this far away from me. Hi, Jeff Jensen, chair of the board, triple vaccine, just in case, because that's why they have me this far away. Usually, all they keep this far away is a microphone. They don't want me speaking where lots of people can hear. But I am here to welcome you. I've been on the board of trustees for 10 years now, and I was lucky enough and actually privileged enough to become chair just in about a year and a half or so ago. So the meeting yesterday was my first in-person board meeting. No, that's true. Every other one was a Zoom meeting, so it was the very first time. In fact, I used to joke I was going to be the only chair that never convened an in-person meeting. But we are glad you're here, and we are, of course, I'm only supposed to welcome you and they get out of the way because they've seen me in front of microphones before. But I quit drinking at 8:30 this morning, so I could be good when I'm supposed to be this afternoon. It is wonderful to be on campus as usual. I grew up in Cedar Rapids, and while I attended school here and I graduated from here in '81, I was one of the joyous ones that got to live through the transition from the semester plan in my freshman year to the block plan in my sophomore year. And the block plan served me extremely well in everything I did in life. It was a wonderful transition and learning experience. It's good to see the campus alive. It's good to see people here. It's good to have a group of people in a room. Our trustee meeting was very wonderful to have a group of people in the room. As we replant the trees from the derecho, the little windstorm you guys had. In the same 14 months I lived through 3 tornadoes and 100-mile-an-hour windstorm in Dallas. So I'm not belittling it. It was not near as big as this one, but it's amazing to see. It is absolutely amazing to see. And I know that it's been a struggle for the last few like say 18 months. It's done great. But we have people who still love this campus, and I love this campus. It is a privilege to help keep the campus going, and it's a privilege to be here and to welcome Bob and Becky and thank them for what they've done. Okay, I've already babbled on long enough. My job is to just say welcome. And let's see, they gave me a full script here. I didn't follow any of it. So I'd like to welcome the 15th president of the college, who's been here approximately the same length of time I have. And Bob, even as a trustee, about 3 or 4 years, if I recall correctly. So, Mr. Jonathan Graham, would you care to take this microphone away from me?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Jeff. And I'm thankful that we're all here together, thankful that it's a beautiful day on the hilltop. I mean, every day is a beautiful day on the hilltop. So as I sort of think about setting the stage for today's dedication, just to say this is a really great time for us on the hilltop. I mean, as Jeff had mentioned with the derecho a year and a half ago, of course, 18 months ago, COVID hit, and every school like Cornell wasn't sure what the next 6 months, year would look like, 18 months now. And here we came out of last year, many schools, many of my colleagues would say, we're doing so much worse institutionally, we're doing so much worse culturally, we're doing so much worse after COVID last year And I thought to myself, well, on our campus, I actually think we've come out of COVID. We haven't really come out of COVID yet, but we went through last year stronger than we started. And when we reflect on the fact that last year we were able to welcome all of our students back, we had a cumulative student positivity rate of 1.3% for our students. I mean, unheard of. As many of you know, made the front page of the New York Times because we were having success like that. This fall, welcoming an incoming class of 404 students, which is almost 30% larger than last year's class. Retention, that was 4 percentage points better this fall than last year at this time in a COVID year. And of course, when I focus on the curriculum, we've got this core curriculum, Ingenuity, which will ensure that all of our students have no fewer than 2 experiences out of the classroom, like off-campus study, global partnerships, or career explorations, internships in organizations. They'll have those experiences. We know employers and grad schools want them, and we have the funding in place. We will have the funding once the endowment all starts to take hold and pay out, the funding in place to ensure that all of our students have access to those funds. And so as students come on campus, we get to talk about all of this progress. And of course, the progress is also visible with our physical plan. I mean, to be honest, you can say you're a great school, you can be a great school. If a student comes on campus and you have subpar buildings, it undermines the very message that you're communicating, and it undermines what actually happens in those buildings. So, for example, here we are in the Thomas Commons, the Smith Dining Hall. What a spectacular space. The Russell Science Center, our science facilities. Thank you, Gene Russell. Really a transformational building for all of our students who take anything in the sciences. And of course, our athletic facilities, which are undergoing a renovation, and Mclennan College Hall, which we're dedicating today. You know, we did this all together, and our historic campus and everything we do on this campus keeps getting better. And I'm really thankful, I will say, I mean, I'm going to come to you, but I'm really also, before that, I want to say I'm really thankful to our students, our faculty, our staff, and our campus partners, our alumni, all together. It's that loyalty and that unwavering support that put us where we are today in this stronger position. Now, I do have some special donors that I'm going to recognize a little bit later in the program, but we also have some other special guests that I'd like to recognize, important people from Mclennan College Hall, and I'm asking you to stand as I recognize you. I mean, projects like these, although when I talk about the history of College Hall, before it was Mclennan College Hall, you'll hear a slightly different story. Today, buildings like these don't just happen. You have to hire experts. So I'd like to recognize, for example, one member of our architectural team, Stephanie McDaniel, Principal and Director at BWBR, Jason Bursch and Dennis Jordan of Mortensen. Thank you. Dwight Shum, Managing Principal of Design Engineers. Excellent. Scott Latwig, our fearless own construction project manager. And Dan Lazell, many of you know, is our fearless Vice President, Chief Operating and Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer. And you know him, he's right there. Right? And of course, I do want to recognize the entire McLennan family, right? Bob and Doug and your families. We're thrilled that you're here, and we're thrilled that you're on the hilltop. So let me spend a second and talk about the history of I'll call it College Hall. Today it becomes McLennan College Hall. So some of you may know the importance of this building symbolically as an emblem for Cornell. So first of all, it's our second oldest building, built in 1857. In many ways, this building embodies the spirit of Cornell. I'm going to read to you a quick little sentence from Charles Milhauser, one of our historians, who wrote, "The story," and I quote, "the story of College Hall is truly a story of us, one of personal dedication to the cause of liberal arts education. You see, we never retained any architect or contractors for this project. Rather, trustees, faculty, students, and local craftspeople designed the building and then built it floor by floor. It thus captures the spirit perfectly, and it has served generations of Cornell so nobly." And I want to just point out, that's without air conditioning, mind you, for almost 165 years. So, as we looked at College Hall, soon to be McLennan College Hall, and we launched our Greater Than campaign, we knew that this would follow the Science Facilities Project and the Russell Science Center. We launched this $3.6 million campaign right after we successfully concluded raising support funds for the science facilities, all while we were in the midst of planning and beginning the athletic facilities project. And so we're really thrilled, just dreaming about this moment, and our faculty in particular dreaming about this moment for decades. I mean, I am not exaggerating when I say this. So with that, I would love to introduce our fearless provost, Eileen Crawford, our first head of academic affairs at Cornell, who is herself a Cornell graduate who studied under the one course at a time methodology. You will not find another Cornellian, another chief academic officer more Cornell than Eileen. She's a Cornell graduate. She married a Cornell graduate. Her parents are Cornell graduates. Yeah, right. I'm going to just stop there and say Eileen is your quintessential Cornellian in every sense of the word. I'm turning it over to you, our fearless provost.
Thank you, Jonathan, for those very, very kind remarks. So I will make my remarks brief because we have some faculty to hear, and also we want to make our way over to see the unveiling of Mclennan College Hall. So the renovation of Mclennan College Hall is one of the shortest projects in the college's history. So even in the midst of global COVID impacts on labor, materials, and the supply chain, our team, made up of members of our campus community and our partner organizations, completed the construction phase of this project in a little over 5 months, an impressive accomplishment under uniquely challenging conditions. 30 of our faculty in education, economics and business, classical and modern languages, history and sociology and anthropology, already displaced from their classrooms due to COVID, were further displaced during this time. And their willingness to work remotely and turn the building over to the construction team has allowed our precious College Hall to be built back better in time to start in person the 2021-2022 academic year. So we are here today to see the fruits of this labor and sacrifice in the second oldest building on Cornell's campus. As a classical studies major, class of 1992, I spent a great deal of time in College Hall. It had all of the charms of an older building, blazing hot in spring and early fall, decidedly chilly the rest of the academic year, very temperamental plumbing, and a damp, spooky basement that remained the only accessible point of entry to the building, even as it was eventually relegated to use only for the haunted house at Halloween. Our partners at Mortenson have preserved the charm and history of Mclennan College Hall while modernizing its infrastructure to create a learning space that is accessible and welcoming to all, with accessible entrances, accessible all-gender restrooms, and yes, air conditioning. You will see this refresh has been wildly successful on all levels, with a new finance classroom as the building showcase, and upgrades in the furnishings and the technology in every classroom to facilitate interactive learning in all the disciplines that call Mclennan College Hall home. And, miracle of miracles, from the basement to the 3rd floor, at any time of the year, the temperature and the humidity level will now be the same. I do want to take this opportunity to recognize and thank the members of the core committee for their work. And they are as follows: Lynn Ekach, Professor of Russian; Sampi Kajibu, Co-Chair and Professor of Economics and Business; Elmira Shikari Namin, Assistant Professor of Economics and Business; Luke Fisher, our Facilities Operations Manager; Carrie Morgan, Assistant Director of Facilities Services; Dan Lazell, Vice President, Chief Operating and Chief Financial Officer; Rachel Krug, Administrative Assistant for Business Services. And while everyone deserves great thanks for their work on this project, I want to give special thanks to 2 additional members of the core committee in particular. One is Scott Ladwick, Construction Projects Manager, whose good humor and patience throughout this process, fielding dozens, yay, hundreds of questions from my office. Got this project done on time. And also Thomas Waller, the Executive Assistant for Academic Affairs. Tom is unable to be with us today due to a family commitment, but I want to publicly acknowledge his essential contribution, managing the complex logistics of moving our faculty out of and back into their offices during this project. This project could not have happened without Scott, and it certainly could not have happened without Tom. And now, it is my great pleasure to introduce my colleague, Dr. Santhi Kajibu, co-chair and professor of economics and business.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, all of you, for your extraordinary support for Cornell College and to College Hall in particular. As a member of the steering committee, I join my faculty, staff colleagues, and our external partners in conceiving how we wanted the building to look and feel for the decades of change ahead. I have to admit it wasn't an easy task, trying to make permanent changes to a sacred space during a long season of loss and dislocation. The committee members were called upon to imagine and design for the future, even while our present pandemic situation felt fraught and fragile. So to develop this plan, we tapped into our tradition of innovation. McClellan College Hall housed the Cell Finance Room. Don Cell was a friend of mine. He visited, my family visited his in Mount Vernon, and he visited my family in Hyderabad, India. So Don, his mentor and fellow pilot, Bob Bunting, and colleague, Party Park, they modernized economics and business education in the 1960s. Don Cell was the pillar of the department for almost 44 decades, from the heady 1960s to the challenges of the late 70s and 80s. In hires such as Professors Faruqi and Savitsky, Don sought faculty colleagues who had rigorous expectations of students and also the ability to engage them with compassion. Don's influence is still felt in the department today. Indeed, in some really important ways, things have remained unchanged. As was true in the 1960s, economics education continues to be the foundation of all business education. As was true in the era of Cell and Bunting, our curriculum is agile. In the last 6 years, we went from one composite ECB major to 6 distinct majors, including analytics, finance, and human resources. And as was true in the era of Cell and Bunting, our enrollments are on the rise. Since 2015, the number of students declaring ECB-related majors has doubled. And key to that growth is our finance program. The Don Cell Finance Lab features a RISE ticker display, 3 large screens, and subscription to Standard & Poor's Capital IQ Pro data service. Through 2 large observation windows, prospective students, their families, and visitors can sense firsthand a curriculum that is both dynamic and impactful. From these windows, visitors can witness courses such as data visualization, investments, and asset management. They will see students working in small groups, give presentations and debate across multiple podiums. They'll see students use quantitative evidence and models to make meaning and predict the future. They'll see students absorbed in hands-on projects using software tools and information resources that are industry standard. In each and every classroom and office in McClellan College Hall. Visitors will see faculty working side by side with students, pointing out what works, and most importantly, why. They may catch bits of private conversation, face-to-face conversations, hand-on-shoulder conversations, advising and career conversations. These words from the heart that we hear and share with our students will echo in their lives far beyond the hilltop. And that's the Cornell experience that connects our paths with our future and that is sustained by your generous support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Santhi. So I'd like to take some time to recognize those who supported this project and recognize that we're streaming this on YouTube. And so I'm speaking, I hope, to some of you who are also here through the camera over by the windows to my left. For those who are here, stand. It would be great if raising your hand is adequate, good enough. That's great, so that everyone can see who you are. So Bryant Wendt, class of 1964, and Linda Wendt. Jan Thomas, class of 1980, and current trustee. And I mentioned with the support of her husband, Gary Dornhafer, who could not be here with us today, but maybe he's there. Hi, Gary. In addition, couldn't be here today, Ruth Turnquist Carver, class of 1970, with the support of her husband, Jim Schmidt, also from the class of 1970, and I have to point out, newlywed as of just over a month ago. Here we are. And in fact, they were on campus last week, 2 weeks ago, right after homecoming, and were actually blown away by the campus and by by college, McLennan College Hall. Dick Chambers, class of 1965, is not here today, but he was here last week. 2 weeks ago to see the building and to meet with students and faculty in the Self-Finance Lab. That was an awesome experience. And of course, there's more to come on this. Bob McClennan, class of 1965. Becky Martin McClennan, class of 1964. Those who supported this project but are not able to be with us today, I would like to mention all of them. And I'll just say, in the world of philanthropy, it's often the case that there's a kernel or a nugget or an essence that builds from, that grows when other people hear about others investing in a project. And so it won't surprise you that when Bob and Becky said, yes, we'd really like to be a part of leading us through this renovation to College Hall, to McLennan College Hall, classmates of theirs, friends of theirs, people who love them, decided to join in because they wanted to be associated with Bob and Becky in this project on the campus. So in that spirit, Mike Annis, class of 1964, and his wife June Annis, Dennis Bark, class of 1964, and his wife France Bark, Millie Eubanks Karstensen, class of 1966, and her fearless husband Fred Karstensen, Trustee Linda Webb Kane, class of 1966, and honorary alumnus Tom Kane, parents Tony and Magda Golovich, life trustee Mary Bowman Seidler, class of 1961, and Stanley Seidler, Stephen Spatek, class of 1988, and his wife Gail Noel Spatek, also class of 1988, and trustee Maxine Yerheim, with a spiritual nod to John Yerheim, class of 1962. I would like to thank all of you for your support. Now I want to tell you a little story about So I want to tell you all a little story about Bob and Becky Mclennan. So when we were seeking additional help, support, investments in the Science Facilities Project, I approached both of them and asked them whether they would be willing to support this project. And Bob in particular said, we're going to support the Science Facilities Project because one, it's Cornell's highest priority, and two, I grew up with Gene Russell in Park Ridge, and we came to Cornell together. This is a classmate of mine. And that was lovely. And then Bob said, but if we were fundraising for College Hall, I'd give you more. He said, I would definitely be inspired to do more in light of how much this building means to me personally and my experiences on the hilltop. Now, when in my job of trying to connect people's passions with our needs, that's a sentence I'd never forgotten. And so when we ended up coming in under budget on the Science Facilities Project such that we could redirect their Science Facilities Project gift to Mclennan College Hall, that was the moment to come back to Bob Beck and say, look, our faculty are desperate for this building, our students are desperate for this building, we need this desperately. And they said yes. And it's really thanks to that moment and your love of this building that we are where we are. Now, I'd love it if you would come forward for a second. Yes, I'm going to embarrass you. So we're also going to take this moment, it's like a class, like nobody wants to come to the front of the classroom. I'm going to take this moment to also conjoin two activities here. I also have to recognize you for an honor, which is the Lifetime Giving Award. And I'm going to spend a second here with that, if that's okay. So, yes, right, it's like more fun. So Bob and Becky, on behalf of Cornell College, of our community, thank you for your exceptional generosity and commitment to the college. Your passion for learning and one course at a time exemplify your devotion to your alma mater and is shown through your leadership giving to your school. In 2010, you donated $1 million to establish Cornell's Chicago facility, which enabled our students to study off campus in a major city while enjoying the small class size that comes with the one course at a time methodology. At that time, you said, look, we hope this works out. If it doesn't, it's an experiment that we think we need to take. Now, many of you know we do not still have that facility, but as Bob said to me on many occasions, again, this is a risk that I think we need to take. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. This year, you are the lead donors to the College Hall Renovation Project, and of course, for your generosity, this building, this important campus building, this iconic campus building will bear your name in perpetuity. In addition to supporting the renovation of Mclennan College Hall, you supported the Science Facilities Project, the Delta Phi Rho Centennial Endowment Fund, the DELT Lecture, the Berry Career Institute, and of course the Cornell Fund, our annual fund. Your generous giving, your leadership has engaged, enriched, enlarged the educational experiences of countless students at Cornell. And for that, we are truly grateful. And it's for that, Bob and Becky, that I am personally, I have this great honor and privilege. Yes, I know, right. We're going to mail this to them. It's really quite, that's right, Steve. Very pleased to recognize you as members of the George Bryant Bowman Founders Circle of the 1853 Society of Lifetime Giving. Congratulations. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Bob and Becky.
I was just ordered to go first. I would like to add our thanks to all the other donors, because together we've, I think, done something pretty terrific for the students and for the faculty and for Cornell College. So thank you all who gave to this. I guess I would start out with just a personal comment that my personal decision to attend Cornell College was the second best decision I've ever made in my whole life. It really was. I mean, I got a great education that has served me in my personal life, in my career. It was a great foundation for my life. And as importantly, or maybe more importantly, we made lifelong friends. I still have any number of lifelong friends that came out of attending Cornell. And that means a lot to me personally. And they're deep and authentic friendships, which at least my experience says, you don't get the same, in general, you don't get the same deep authenticity at a larger school that you get at a place like Cornell. It was a great experience, and it stayed with me my whole life. So I want to tell one brief story that what's still the library, but the bottom floor used to be the student union. And I was coming out of the student union in May of 1962. So this is a bit of ancient history, people. And I came out of the door, and this really attractive young woman who I had not met before, this woman right here, kind of accosted me and said, I have an emergency, you've got to walk me back to Pfeiffer Hall, which was the dorm she lived in. Well, I did that. And to fast forward in this story, 3 years later, we were married. And so I'd like to introduce the single best decision I ever made in my wife, Becky.
We won't tell the rest of the story because our grandchildren are here. But if anybody wants to know the rest of the story, we can tell you. I mean, obviously, we were both so fortunate to be able to come to this wonderful school and to spend 4 years here, and then to keep coming back. And the fact that we weren't in the same class, I graduated in 64 and Bob in 65, that we got to come back for more homecomings than most people because we would do it back to back. So, and we've watched the campus change and grow, and we're thrilled to be a part of this, obviously. It just came to me. I wasn't going to say this, but, and I don't know, what was, Bob and Brian went, and we had Dick Chambers, who also gave to the project, and Dennis Bark and Mike Annis, and then there was a guy named Don Brown who gave everybody names. And I'm not sure who gave, who did he name Donnie Drysdale? Was that? Oh, he did. He did, all right. And did Bunting have a name?
Yeah, Bullet Bob.
Bullet Bob, that's right. So these names are very familiar to all of us. I'm sure they would be proud of what has been done. And we just hope that the faculty has many wonderful years in the beautiful new building, and that Cornell continues to grow and blossom. And thank you all.
Thank you so much, Bob and Becky. So we are going to reconvene at 2:30 on the Ped Mall outside of Mclennan College Hall for the official ribbon cutting and dedication. Then, of course, the building's open for touring, viewing every space so that you can see it. And it's not a day where air conditioning is probably going to be critically important, but just imagine it. We'll see you over there. Thank you, everyone.